Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of The Lab. With you today, you have Dave and Lou. We are going to be, because you guys have so kindly requested this, um, we are going to continue to build off of the rehab programming, and maybe just some, I guess, considerations as a physical therapist. So, topic number one for today, we're going to be getting into some injury prevention or risk reduction strategies in terms of training programs, right? So we're going to talk about why implementing a proper warm up and also maybe a cool down routine is important. Maybe go a little bit more in about like the dynamic and static stretching components to that. And then also talking about like how you guys go about utilizing your warm up sets and then the intensities that you utilize for that too. And then last but not least, just kind of talking about, I guess you could say like symptom management, um, and especially when you're getting back into the gym towards the end of this. So, number one, um, proper warm up and cool down routines. So, like obviously, when you're starting to work away from an injury, you're getting back more into regular gym routine. Warm ups can make or break a workout. I know there are some days when things are feeling maybe a little bit more irritated, getting some more warm up sets so that the area of the body is more prepared. It's got a little bit more blood flowing through it. There's a lot of things that kind of go into this. Um,
Yeah,
anything,
first one that kind of jumps out to me is time of day.
bingo.
So I feel like I've had the most trouble getting to a top set, getting to like where my body feels prepped, definitely first thing in the morning.
Hmm.
And that's for a different number of reasons. Um, Obviously you're dehydrated, you have no food in your system, your CNS is pretty low because you're just waking up.
Hmm.
So the vast majority of the times that I've gotten like tweaked or dinged or had to like modify a each day of like my plan, it's been probably before 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to kind of consideration. So your warm up doesn't start at the gym. Possibly set your alarm to like wake up 30 minutes to an hour earlier than you would. So you can start this like at your house. So don't show up at the gym dehydrated, uncaffeinated, nothing in your stomach. So that would be kind of piece number one to talk about.
Hmm. I agree.
And a lot of this stuff kind of happens on a scale or spectrum. So I don't really require all that much warm up. Like I'm not the biggest fan of them either because I do find that people find this area to be filled with junk volume. So if you are time strapped and you have an hour, 75 minutes, you don't need to do all your PT stuff. And you shouldn't have to do that to get under the barbell, but being thoughtful about what you're picking to prime the movement is really good to think about.
Hmm. I agree with that. I like to think of so like if you're spending 20 to 30 minutes as a warm up, you definitely need to be reconsidering what you're doing in the gym. So like my favorite warm up is just a very lighter version of what I'm about to do. So like last night, I could tell like after my entire workday, I was run down a little bit. I know I basically had to get my heart pumping a little bit. Had to warm up my body a little bit because I could tell I was stiff, I was sore, I needed to be able to move. So I just hopped on the assault bike, did a few intervals, just kind of got the core temperature elevated. Did a few lateral lunges, just kind of got the hips opened up a little bit more. And then my initial back squats that I hit last night, I did a set of 10 with the barbell. Then I did a set of another set of 10 with 135 through 225 on the bar. I hit about I think I hit 8 on that on 225, put 315 on the bar, I did 6. And then like as I got up towards I probably had like at least maybe four, I think 4 to 6 like warm up sets before I actually hit my working sets. And then I hit my 3x5 for my working sets, which was actually like I felt really good. I moved, I mean, I think I hit, yeah, 435 at my top set. So I felt really good last night. Like I moved well, but like then after that I didn't really have a whole lot else to do. So like my main focus was that my warm up was tailored to that. I mean, I feel like you start seeing like a lot of the fad stuff get thrown in. Like some people, I mean, I'm not gonna fault you for this, but some people get stuck in the foam rolling world where like they got a foam roll for like 10 minutes every little aspect and then they go into their warm up and it's like maybe for like after working out, but like not beforehand. But
I
I
think
guess
it's doing too much.
the what?
you're just doing too much.
Yeah,
Like there's
there's more
it's
to it.
documented all over the place that like if you're in there and you're doing any more than 45 to 60 minutes worth of work, it has rate of diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's just get in, get your stress, get out, and then just start the recovery process as quick as possible.
exactly. Get your work done.
Um, Definitely do like the idea of using like a bike or something just to elevate the core temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, my warm-ups are probably going to be what set of muscle mass am I using that day and how can I get it warm to actually start into the actual process of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing something like a squat, I'm probably picking something like a banded TKE, lateral walk, and then a split squat, and then just kind of going through those
Mm-hmm.
for 5 minutes. And then basically I'm just kind of taking the bar, stacking, and then it's whatever like your set rep combo is going to be that day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing fives, I'll do fives. But that can be kind of overkill too if you're trying to do like a 20 rep max or something of that nature.
Yeah.
So basically just get your CNS warm, make sure your pattern's good,
Yeah.
start to get after it.
And there's like no perfect way for like a dynamic warm up as long as you're like elevating the body temperature and priming whatever you need to use like for whatever specific movements you want to hit that day. So like if your goal is to squat, then you need to warm up everything that's required for the squat. If you're going to do a deadlift, you need to make sure you're warming up your hinging pattern. If you're doing a lot of jumping, you should be doing lighter version of jumping before you get into the big max stuff.
And
Um,
in some cases too, I'll use this to build up a weak point.
mhm,
So I guess like if you have like chest drop in like your squats or your deads, I might be using this warm up to like really hit your thoracic spine with a ton of like arch back good mornings.
yeah,
So I've also done kind of stuff like that, but you're getting two things accomplished there where you're kind of warming up your body, you're utilizing muscle mass, and you're also hitting the pattern with something uh,
mhm,
that's going to help warm up like the posterior chain too.
yeah. Light up whatever positions you need to light up, you need to light them up. And then like I said before, like the best type of warm up can be the lighter version of what you're about to do, right? So then once you get into those movement patterns, it doesn't feel quite so foreign to you. One of the things I used to do, like I look back at like what I used to do beforehand, where it was like a whole bunch of like, so I guess we can go more into like dynamic versus static stretching. So like before, I used to just quad stretch the heck out of myself. I would hamstring stretch the heck out of myself. I'd sit in a pigeon pose for like 2 minutes, like just to like open my hips up. And I found that I still would go into my back squat and it would still feel really kind of off. And the more I've kind of grown, both as like a clinician, as basically through my own lifting programs, like I found that the dynamic warm up has just been a godsend because then everything feels ready for the loading I'm about to do. Whereas after the static stretching, I never really felt like all that great beforehand.
Yeah, that's when raw water was like back in vogue, right?
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And funny enough, there's just like probably mountains of research at this point showing that static stretching decreases power output,
Hmm.
which can likely leave you more vulnerable under heavier loads. So
Yes.
it's probably the last thing that you want to do. Whereas if you kind of versus like you're saying, did something dynamic and then this can even look like get on a bike and then try to work towards like a max box jump to warm yourself up for squats too.
Yeah.
Because then you're utilizing a ton of that like kinetic energy, a lot of the same muscle mass is used, and you're actually priming your nervous system for a max effort.
Hmm.
So this could be something that kind of talk about too, if like your goal is to prime like your CNS versus just move well into a squat, right? So the intent matters with this stuff too.
Yes. Speed production, especially.
But yeah, so I mean, obviously we roll conjugate. So if I was going to do something max effort and I had the time, broad jumps, high jumps, stuff like that would probably be something that would be good to throw in there. Doesn't always
Mhm.
look like that because a lot of times they're strapped for time.
That they
Um,
are.
so it's just it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as far as like the prevention talk around the warm up too,
Mm-hmm.
nothing you are gonna do is actually going to prevent injury. So we need to like get this out there.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody selling you the bulletproof, the prevention, the stuff like that, that you can't guarantee anything.
The
And it,
templates.
yeah, right. And it really is about like what package you're walking into the gym with that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to recognize this at the start, and your warm up should kind of inform this for you, not necessarily guarantee that you're going to perform well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we all know those days. Could be in the morning, could be after you worked, could be you're just not reading the room, and that like your week is too stressed to fit this section in here.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you have a swing shift. You're coming off of a day where you got off early, then you trained at night, and then you got piss poor sleep. Then maybe you have to wake up earlier, and then you're trying to sneak it in after a long shift. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of stress to throw into that period of time.
A lot
And no
more.
matter how warmed up you get, you got to be able to sleep. You got to be able to eat your food. You got to be able to
Mm-hmm.
at least be cognizant of it.
Yeah. Informed, smart training. Knowing when you can push, when you can't push, knowing when maybe you do need to just, maybe reduce the intensity and move well. Um, like if those things aren't on your side, doesn't matter what you do in a warm up, you won't be
Yep.
ready for
So
those things.
please try to walk in there with the best package that you can.
Hmm. It's like trying to take it's like you want to like tune a car, right? You want to basically keep everything like when you go get a car service, you want everything firing and working on optimal levels. So like why wouldn't you do the same thing with your body if you're not sleeping, eating, and hydrating as much as possible, or as I shouldn't say as much, as efficiently as possible. Um, you want to make
Yeah.
good time in the gym, you need to be able to do what you can with what you got. So like sleeping for me right now, I could probably pull up my sleep data right now. I guarantee you I'm only averaging probably 5 to 6 hours of sleep right now. I need more sleep. My loads have suffered because of it, I can tell, but I haven't been pushing. I've been trying to be smart about this. Um, I think I definitely think that people need to take that into consideration. Like, I mean, this kind of goes into bullet point number three about like gradually increasing training intensity and volume. So like if you are putting yourself at a deficit of those things, you will not be able to increase your training intensity as effectively as you maybe want to. Or in PRs, I mean, especially when you've been training for so long, are going to become very seldom. Like if you're trying to keep pushing into PRs and keep pushing into new heights of training or new goals, and you're always at a constant deficit, maybe look into changing something with those three because that could lead to progressions that maybe you haven't had access to in a while. Or
I would
maybe,
say 9 times out of 10, that's it. Not
yeah.
you're looking in all the wrong spots for massage guns. You're looking in there for secret stretches. You're looking at all these things, and then you keep seeing every day. You wake up with 5 hours of sleep. You're 500 calories short, and your water short as well without electrolytes. Like, God, you
Mhm.
got so much more low hanging fruit that you're just not considering.
Mhm.
And I would say what we're going to talk about is probably the top 10% that you have access to.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's gonna guide your warm up and your physical preparedness more than anything else.
Yeah. Having those things together. And it's like as therapists, I think we kind of have that. I guess when we're talking with our patients and like we have that communication with them, we're kind of getting like that bird's eye view and we can kind of look and make assessments of maybe where some people are missing. It's not my role to tell you what to eat or how to eat, but it is definitely my role to see if maybe you are under eating or maybe you are underperforming or getting more irritations than usual. Um, but maybe saying no matter what we do in the clinic isn't going to change that. If you continually eat under or underperform in eating, then no matter what I do in the clinic, it isn't going to matter. So sometimes getting that dietitian on board is, or getting the calories and nutrients on board is something that needs to happen. And I've had more than one occasion where I've had to bring a dietitian on board. The next thing you know, everything we've been working on starts showing progress. Everything they've been doing in the gym starts showing progress. And it's a win-win. Like you aren't going to have any faults after that. It's almost too perfect. It's kind of funny, but
Yeah, and
sometimes it's so
this is
simple.
assuming you have access to it too.
True. Yeah.
So let's just say it's a perfect situation. obviously everybody's in a different spot, so
Hmm.
be cognizant of that too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good materials out there right now for people to go looking into. Gosh, I'll have to bring up some of the things that I know we had gotten something from Matt Frakes out of LSU when we had interviewed him. He had sent me some links, so I can put those back up again. Um, if people are interested, if you guys want that, I can bring that up again. He had some really cool free material stuff that you can look into that. You can go through all of that. It was really awesome. Um, Good guy. To
I
reach out.
really like Dr. Gabby Lyons too.
Okay.
She's a pretty good person to champion like what you should do for like longevity and consider with your health.
Where's she out of?
I think she's actually an MD converted to like more of the nutritional side of stuff. It's kind of cool.
That is pretty sweet. Is she local?
No,
Oh,
no,
damn.
she's national spotlight.
Okay. That's pretty cool though. So let's see here.
I guess let's go kind of in the nuance of the static versus dynamic stuff too. So
Yeah.
I guess the static isn't always a negative, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure that like we've used it as a vessel to open up some range of motion, then loaded it. But again, the intent with this was not power production or force production.
Hmm.
So you can't stack this stuff before to open up ranges of motion and then do loading, but you're probably going to hit it for more volume, tempo, pause, lower percentage,
Hmm.
and you're probably using it as like a way to access more space in the CNS. But then, of course, like I said, you're not going for rapid force production
Hmm.
because of that possible injury.
Yeah. And you can also use it for like post-workout cool downs. Like if you want to hit some static stretching after you're done working out, might not be a bad idea either. Um,
Yeah, I in general hate static stretching.
hmm.
So there is some like research that I've seen like kind of through like the ICE group.
Hmm.
So they've hung basically a grand piano off of larger tendinous structures like your Achilles or like your IT band.
Hmm.
And the thing has literally done an excursion of about an inch. So when people feel like they can really affect soft tissue change via stretching,
Hmm.
I'm not the biggest fan of it. If you want to use it for down regulation of your CNS
Hmm.
or as a way to kind of get back in the parasympathetic state, cool. But you're probably not accessing as much range of motion as you think.
Yeah. Not so much for
So,
like physical deformation.
right. And I do feel like there's a lot of people trying to sell more mobility, but I think Adam Meakin posted it's like 70% due to genetics
I
or
saw
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
So you're really not changing much or accessing that plasticity by stretching. I mean, it's probably borderline at best, but if you are using it for meditation, down regulation, stress control, um, phasing your mind out of the gym, I do feel like that stuff's very true as well. The
Hmm.
same way that like if you get crushed in the Metcon, if you go back on an assault bike, it does help to taper that spike effect in your heart. It gets more oxygen.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It does seem like we underdose it to get the maximum effect when we do it. So it's just kind of, is it worth your time? I guess would be the question I would ask myself when doing that.
Yeah. I'm actually like getting into more of like instead of a static stretch, I'll use more of like just like loaded eccentrics. And I found that I get much better, like I feel like I'm more prepared when I use loaded eccentrics for things like the squat, things like the deadlift, and I'm like loading myself into those positions, or even my patients, I'm loading them into that position, and then we actually will work through that with more intent, as opposed to using static stretching. We'll go through our dynamic warm up, and then after that, we'll go into those loaded eccentrics, and then we'll hit our movements for the day, and it works really well. I definitely think you got to use a like don't go putting 50, 60% in your hands and going to that. I'm maybe using like 20, 30% and going through the range. It's it's something to look into, especially if you're like really hung up on static stretching. Give the loaded eccentrics a
Yep.
try.
If your goal is range of motion,
Hmm.
right? like you can also eccentrics in general is never wrong
Hmm.
for like our space. Um, but yeah, the reason that you get like the bigger change is obviously because you're getting a higher neurological stimulus
Hmm.
and it's in the presence of load in the position you want to get to.
Just priming a system.
It's, yep. So you're kind of knocking like 3 for 3 with that as far as helping that person.
Yeah, it's been pretty, especially for like my ACL patients when like learning to hinge again or learning to squat again. It's been fantastic. Trying to see here. Looks like we hit all of our bullet points here, Dave. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else maybe we missed?
I don't think so. I feel like as a generality from a 10,000 foot view,
Hmm.
use all the stuff as a vessel to kind of get into positions that you feel like you need to or prime your nervous system to perform the activity at hand. Don't use it as a crutch to sit there, show up early, uh, kind of do a time sync. Like it really shouldn't be any longer than probably 5 to 10 minutes on each bookend of your workout.
Yep.
All right. So none of this stuff will actually predetermine your readiness the next day. Um, Probably doesn't commit to like much to like your recovery. It probably doesn't litigate all that much injury in the future. But they are good habits to get into in order to like control your CNS and possibly promote some blood flow or help with some sort of like pattern that you're trying to achieve.
That's a good point to end on. I like that, Dave. I like that.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, Dave and I will be continuing, the rehabilitation programming, or the, if you want to call it, the PT program. Um, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Um, we'll be more than happy to answer some questions for you. But we will see you guys in the next episode.